Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. Today I've got the latest generation of the M&P Bodyguard 380 on the table. Please don't forget to check out our website. Go to our affiliates page. You'll find discount codes for things like Mantis Axe and Core belts. You'll find a link that you can sign up for Big Daddy Unlimited. They actually have things in stock and usually at a lower price than other places. Link to that cool little bore light that we use for lighting up the barrels. Use those links. It will often save you money, never will cost you any additional money, and helps the channel. Thank you. Part of Smith & Wesson's M&P lineup, this gun, as the Bodyguard 380, has been around since about 2011, and each one of us had one of the very early versions well over 10 years ago, and it was pretty hateful at the time. The trigger was pretty hideous. They came with an Insight built-in laser that didn't hold zero and also had a screw that loved to back out and jam the slide. So every time you cleaned it, you had to make sure you retighten that screw. And if you lost track of that, weren't paying attention, over time it would shave the head of the screw off, and then eventually it would lock the whole gun up. They do offer this with a laser option now, but it's a Crimson Trace. So I'm hoping that they've redesigned that and solved some of those problems. Crimson Trace does make good lasers. But this is the non-laser version of it. And what the Bodyguard 380 is basically it's meant to be a pocket pistol, a really small pocket pistol. It's only 5.3 inches long, it's only 4.3 inches tall with the flush mag, and it's only 3/4 of an inch thick, so it's a tiny little thing really. And it weighs 12 ounces in this particular configuration. With the original ones, the trigger was pretty hideous. It was long, it was heavy, it was to the point where it's hard to not twist the gun as you were turning it, or as you were pulling the trigger, and it was inconsistent. We both got rid of ours at different times. Hammer got a Car P380 and I got the Glock 42 to replace it. Now, at the time these came out, the cars did exist, but they were expensive and scarce, and the Glock 42, of course, didn't exist. I happen to have a Car P380 here, and you can see that they're about the same form factor. They're roughly the same length. You know, the Bodyguard's a little longer when you consider the beaver tail. But overall, they're basically the same size gun. But these retailed for about $400. These retailed for $800 or more at the time. And the CWs were even scarcer. They were less expensive, but they were even scarcer. So if you were looking for a really small, inexpensive pocket pistol, this was probably one of the few choices out there that was readily available and at a reasonable price. The Ruger LCP existed, but it had, at the time, the same hideous trigger. And, of course, the Cal-Tex existed with an even more hideous trigger, if you can imagine that. So, it's amazing how the world has moved. This is a gun that I almost celebrated when I got rid of it. Swore I'd never get another one, that no matter how much I didn't like whatever else I'd picked, I'd get something else. But Smith & Wesson has evolved this, so I wanted to give it another try. Now it's under the M&P lineup, and similar to the Shield and the original M&P, the Generation 1s I hated. I didn't like the triggers, the ones that I experienced that were unreliable. The M2 series and the latest generations have really nice triggers, and I've experienced no reliability issues with them. So I'll give them another chance. So happened to pick this up on closeout sale on Big Daddy, and figured I'll give it another try. So what have they changed? Well, a few of the things they've changed. The grip pattern now is more consistent with the M&P line. It's that sandpaper finish and squares. Really, it's an ergonomic change. Overall, the grip itself hasn't changed. The slide, they've gone to the fish scale serrations, and they're easy to get a hold of. I've got the magazine in it, so they're easy to get a hold of. It's relatively easy to cycle. For a small gun with a small, thin slide, there's not much to grab onto. It's still relatively easy to cycle. They have dovetail replaceable sights. Now, unfortunately, the sights are blackout. And I was able to pull acceptable groups with this, but I had to work for it. Now, somebody will make an argument that, this is a belly gun, you're not even going to use the sights. Well, that's kind of what they're designed for, maybe for a backup. But if this is what you're carrying, whatever situation you're in, you got to use what you're carrying. You can't go home and get your bigger gun because the situation requires better sights and a bigger gun. So you kind of would want good sights if you can get them. There is a laser option, as I mentioned earlier, the Crimson Trace laser, and there's a button here. This kind of extends down, and there's a button here. It's not a trigger guard laser, it's integral. And it is a hammer-fired gun, just like the original one, but they have improved the trigger overall. Now we're 11 plus years past the original inception of this. They were $400 then. The one you see here, MSRP, is $400. They've got a couple variants of it, as I mentioned, the one with the laser, and they've also got one that's got an engraved slide. It's a stainless steel look engraved slide, kind of dressed up a little bit. So there's a couple variations of them, which that type of thing Smith & Wesson has been doing with their M&P lineup, creating a number of different variations. But most people that would get something like this are looking for a simple, light, small. They're not going to get the fancy editions, maybe get the laser, but that's about it. And you can see from a simple, light, small, and put the flush mag in it, that only unfortunately holds 6 rounds. It almost fits in the palm of my hand. Hangs off just a little bit. If I center it just right, it does actually kind of fit on the palm of my hand. So they are small. Now with things out there today, in today's generation, things like the LCP Max, which holds 10 rounds in roughly the same footprints, just a little bit bigger, a little bit thicker, relevance of something like this is starting to fade. But if you're really truly looking for something tiny and light, this might be one of the options out there. I just realized that before I filmed I didn't measure the trigger pull on this, so I'm going to do that and then come back. So I've gone ahead and measured the trigger, and it does come in at 10 pounds, 6 ounces. The original trigger, I don't know what it weighed because it maxed out the gauge. But this one comes in at 10 pounds, 6 ounces. So I'm going to start with the gun cycled. A little bit of take up. It's kind of a little bit heavy-ish, but again, that's your 10 pounds, 6 ounces, and it's fairly consistent. It breaks all the way at the back. Of course, it would cycle. And you get a reset here, but it's a false reset. Then you get another reset out here, which is the real reset, which then you can pull through. Now, so I'll cycle it again. That's not really a reset, though it quite sounds like one. And this would be one reason that if you're trying to use the reset on this, you might fail, because you'll hear it, you kind of feel it, you might be inclined to pull the trigger. I'm going to keep going. All the way out, you do get the reset. Now, if I pull the trigger and don't cycle it, it is a DAO. You don't get that false reset in the middle. You get the real reset at the end. Now you get kind of an inconsistent pull. It's kind of heavy, then light, then heavy, and then breaks at the end. This would be if you hadn't cycled it. Now this has no decocker or anything like that, so really the only point you would be in this situation is if you had a fail to fire. Because as soon as you chamber it, of course you cycle it. And I'm going to show you what happens if you try to use that false reset. There's a very clear reset-y thing. And the trigger's dead. Now, good news is I'm not completely out of business, because if I just let it all the way out and try again, it will work. So this isn't a gun you use the reset. It's not a gun that's intended to be a reset. It just, being a DAO, you do have the option of a restrike, and you've got a decent trigger. Now, when you look at this trigger versus some of the other options that are out there now versus 10 plus years ago, when you look at things like the LCP Max and some of the other guns that are out there in this size category, the LCP series is now much better trigger than they ever were, and they beat this trigger. The car has always had a nicer trigger. It's smoother and more consistent. So you start to question really the relevance of this anymore. At one point, this was better than the Kel-Tecs that were out there. Kind of things have moved on, and I really don't think that this gun, though improved, is truly relevant anymore. A couple other things to mention before I take this apart. It does come with a pinky extender magazine. It doesn't add any additional capacity. All it does is takes it to almost a 2-finger grip, depending on the size of your hand. And the flush magazine is kind of a 1.5-finger grip. You know, get up in there. This one does have a bit of a beaver tail to try to minimize slide bite, but it would be easy if you've got a big hand to get over it and not end up getting bit. From a quality perspective, this does have some quality features. The sights are metal, the barrel and slide are stainless steel. Of course, the grip frame is polymer. So Smith & Wesson has done a good job with this. You're getting a good quality gun for your money. Like others in the M&P lineup, it's got their Armor Night finish. So overall, it's a well-done gun, and when I get it apart, I'll show you the barrel and everything. Now, it does have a manual safety that's somewhat easy to operate. It's kind of kind of hard to operate, and it's near impossible to put on gripping it. I'm going to put it on. It's a little easier to take off. You can kind of catch the top of it with the edge of your thumb. So if I put the safety on, I can sweep it down fairly easy, but it's rather difficult to turn it on. So you're going to put the safety on, not in a shooting grip or with your other hand, but at least if you do pull this and go to use it, you can fairly easily knock the safety off. Overall, I tend not to like thumb safeties. When I had this one before, I really didn't use it. It had such a long, heavy trigger that it would be actually very difficult to fire it by accident. And if you do have the safety on, it does prevent you cycling it because it blocks the cycling. And if you do have the safety on and try to fire it, it blocks the trigger. Kind of gets about halfway and gets heavy. So the safety does work. One problem I did have with this that I don't remember having with the original one is the magazine release is very light, which is nice, but it's actually too light. When you get a hold of this, you got all your hands on it because it's such a small gun. Both of us, when shooting this, frequently hit this just enough to drop the magazine down. Of course, it didn't come all the way out because we had our fingers wrapped around the gun, but then it would fail to cycle properly on the next round. It would either not feed or it would jam. So the magazine release is just a hair too light, and it sticks up just a bit too much, so it's a little easy to catch. So the only failures we had with this gun really were related to accidentally releasing the magazine and getting it kind of about like there, because whichever magazine it was, the finger would catch it and you just get a little gap and then it wouldn't cycle correctly. So if you choose to get one of these, you're going to have to adjust your grip to stay away from that magazine release, or you're probably going to have the same problem with it. The other thing that both of us encountered with this is not a defect, it's just the way it works. Right in here, you felt it. Every time you pulled the trigger, you felt it. Now, none of these little tiny things are pleasant to shoot. Some of them are more unpleasant than others. This particular one was a little more on the unpleasant side of it compared to some others. Probably just the shape of it, the way it's laid out. It's not a fun gun to shoot. It's not hideous, but overall it's just not a fun gun to shoot. You have to, of course, take it to the range and practice with it if it's going to be your carry, but you're going to not be really excited to do so. Now, disassembly on this technically is toolless. You lock it back with the slide stop slide release. You turn this down and then pull it out. It is a little difficult to get a hold of. I imagine when it breaks in a little bit, it'll get easier. Technically, you can do it without tools. You can grab a hold of it and pull it out, but I find that using a tool like this channel cleaner makes it easier to get a hold of it, and of course it's polymer, so it's not going to scratch. You pull this thing out, and then it's under spring tension, so don't just cycle it and let go, but you either drop the slide stop slide release or just slingshot it, and it comes right apart. Internally, it is well constructed. It's got long, full-length rails, both sides, with the only cutouts are for the controls. You can see the hammer here. On the slide itself, there's the drop safety plunger, so it does have a drop safety. It has this single non-captive recoil, actually it's a dual non-captive recoil spring with a metal guide rod. And then, with one exception, a well-constructed barrel. Conventional rifling. Of course, it's stainless steel. Now, the only exception I would say to well-constructed is the feed ramp is kind of a hot mess. If you look at the top of it up here, there's all kinds of tooling marks and inconsistencies and weirdness in the angles and shapes. However, it did work. We didn't have any problems trying several different types of ammo, including some popular Federal and Hornady defense rounds, along with just cheap range ammo. And of course, you can see the witness hole for determining if you have a loaded chamber. So I don't like the look of this, but it didn't affect the function whatsoever. And with the rest of it, nice, sharp, well-defined rifling, of course, standard rifling. So it's a well-done barrel. The feed ramp's not pretty, but it did work. Reassembling it's relatively easy. Now, lining this spring up can be a little difficult, but the spring's not heavy. So you just kind of line it up and give it a little shove. The spring's going to want to whittle a little bit, but it's easy to keep it straight with your hands. Make sure it's well centered. And then there's a couple different ways to reassemble it. What I just do is lock it back. And of course, the barrel's out of position. I mean, you just reach in there and push the barrel forward. And with the barrel forward, put this back in. and then wiggle it back and forth a little bit, pushing on it until it pops into position. And of course, I'm on camera, so it's not going to do it for me. But once you pop it back into position, the gun will be cycled. It will be functional again. I must have done something a little bit off with it, so let me fix it and resume. Of course, as soon as I stop the camera, I wiggle it a little bit more. You actually end up turning it a little bit past the center position, and then it'll clip in, and then you swing it back forward, and then it'll go all the way down. It's a little bit clunky, but not ridiculous. I think that after it breaks in a little bit, it might become truly toolless. Otherwise, you will need some sort of tool to get up under there to get it that initial start so you can get your whole fingers on it and get it out of there. Should you buy one of these in the current age? It's better than the original one. If you've got an original one and you're still using it and you want to continue to use it but you hate the trigger, this might be a useful upgrade. But at the same time, once you're about to drop $400, look at things like the LCP Max and some of the other things that are on the market that are not a whole lot bigger with noticeably more capacity and definitely nicer triggers. So overall, it's improved, but it's, by my estimation, still not a very nice or very friendly gun to have or use, other than the fact that it's among the lightest and smallest out there. Beyond that, if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, click that bell to be notified if you do. Check us out on Patreon, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Getter, and everywhere. And thank you.